Bella Chacha podcast, where we dive deep into the heart of. Welcome to the Bella Chacha podcast, where we dive deep into the heart of human experience. I am your host, Manushka Lamini. On Sunday afternoon, we share intimate, life-changing stories that inspire, connect, and transform. So grab your favorite drink, get cozy, and join us on this adventure of vulnerability and strength. Welcome to the Bella Chacha podcast, where we dive deep into the heart of human experience. I am your host, Manushka Lamini. On Sunday afternoon, we share intimate, life-changing stories. Hello. This is Bella Chacha podcast, Sunday afternoon, and I have a very special guest today. But as we always do, we have to let the audience know the reason why we created this space. And this is a space that first is an extension of my coaching service, which is Bella Chacha Coaching. You can look us up for more information on our bellachacha.com. And we have a YouTube channel, Bella Chacha Coach, on YouTube and Facebook, Bella Chacha Podcast. So we are doing this just so we can provide a safe space where people who have gone through challenges and obstacles, and to show that the human potential is very powerful, resiliency. And that's why we're having this podcast. Always find a brave soul to come on here and to share and to be authentic in their sharing. So today we have a special guest, which is Miss Yvette. Whenever I put her full name and I see that gentle P, so I'm going to leave it as Yvette P. So welcome.
Thank you for having me.
So Yvette, if you'll tell the audience a little bit about yourself.
Wow. So let's start with Miami, Florida, which is where I was born to two immigrant parents, neither of which could read or write, but they taught me 5 languages. So I don't like to use the word illiterate because they were super special and super strategic in making sure that I was the first born U.S. citizen. And in doing that, they received residency. Back in those days when you had an American-born child, the parents became residents, but it was still their responsibility to take the necessary tests to become citizens.
Sure. So how many siblings?
Just one. I have an older brother who was born in the Bahamas.
Okay. All righty. So what can you tell me about your childhood?
Wow. I can tell you that I was a daddy's girl, and my mother was a girly girl. So as excited as she was to have a daughter, I would rather spend my time changing tires and dropping oil pans with my dad.
So you were a tomboy?
Absolutely. 100,000.
You look like a tomboy with those nice sandals I saw earlier. That's not a tomboy look.
I will share with you where that transition happened later, but I promise you up until probably about 6 to 8 years ago, I did not become a girly girl until after I became disabled.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's stay childhood, teenage, and what line of work you've gone to college? Did you stay in Miami or did you explore other states?
Good question. So I loved school. I loved learning, and again, because there was no active learning in my household, I literally learned new and big words from watching TV and writing down those words and looking them up, finding the meaning and using them like incessantly, right? And I think that most of what I did helped me to graduate early. So I graduated at 16. And I had several scholarships. I just did not have the opportunity to take advantage of them because by this time my mom and dad were divorced and I was a breadwinner at 16. So I think I worked at like a chicken spot for a couple weeks, and then I spent the rest of my career at a bank as a teller.
Okay, so you were in the financial world. So you stayed the entire time in the financial world. So because sometimes I hear you talk about IBM. So
Yes.
where did that come through?
Yes, very good question. So I worked at Florida Power and Light, which was the local light company overnight, and I was literally working 2 jobs, and I was going to 3 different universities and tech schools and community schools in order to get to my dream college. And at the time, my mom always told me that I was really good at breaking things and putting them back together. So I ended up getting a degree in engineering.
Okay, so that's the tomboyish.
That's the tomboyish. Well, it's amazing, and I think we can talk about this, later. But my mother, the girly girl, said to me at a very early age, you could be pretty or you could be smart. So I didn't see myself as pretty. So I felt like I need to work on being smart. And engineering is a direction I took for many reasons, but mostly because I wanted to be smart, or at least
So why
use my smartness.
why couldn't you be both?
I didn't know that I had a choice. Those records that play in our heads and our minds take a very long time to recognize. And I was already on the smart path. So I never even stopped to think or even concern myself with being pretty. I know it sounds weird, but as we think about who we are and who we're defined as and the things that we hear about ourselves, it's so important to make sure we check in. Because even as a parent, there are things we tell our children not to do at an early age, but as they mature and they grow, those things become more available to them. But no one went back and corrected that belief or told me that I'd gotten to a point where I can make a choice. At that point, she felt like I needed to be smart. And maybe some of that came from just earning the right amount of funds to be able to take care of the home because she didn't have a trade per se. So my working at the bank, pretty much maintain our entire household. But I love that question. And I was recruited by IBM from a parochial college, which I think is so incredible because I didn't think they'd find me there. And I was fortunate enough after taking all the tech classes and working at all the jobs that I didn't have as much debt, and they moved me. Literally, IBM stands for I've been moved. I don't care what anyone says. That's our belief. Of course.
So you moved from Florida to where?
Atlanta.
Okay.
Because think about it, like coming out of Florida, you always have to stop somewhere because we're kind of at the bottom of the map, right? The southeastern portion of the map, we're all the way at the bottom. And I was flying into Atlanta because they had what they called kind of a super team here, and they also had a training center here. So eventually they were like, you have to stop here to go anywhere anyway. And as a consultant, I traveled the world, and it required me to get to Atlanta first and then, visit the world. Because I'm thinking when I was in Miami, we went on cruises, we did the Caribbean. It wasn't hard. It was like jumping into an Uber, being so close. But once I moved to Atlanta, my first introduction to global travel was as an IBM consulting engineer.
And what year was that?
Oh my gosh, really? You didn't warn me, but this was 2002 maybe?
Okay, so you moved before I did.
Did I?
Yes.
When did you come?
2007.
Oh, wow.
I was in Florida too.
No way.
Yeah, but I was in not so fun place. I was in Tallahassee.
Tallahassee's a kind of college city.
Well,
isn't it?
whenever there's no politics or college, it's dead.
That's a good point. Yeah. That's a good point.
Because once school is out, they check out too. The students check out, and it's as quiet as a church mouse.
I've heard that.
That's why the students, they never stay. They come and earn their degrees, and they go back home.
Oh, wow.
And I was there for 10 years, so
Wow.
I saw the evolution, and I'm like, no one is staying, so we don't need to stay either.
So is that how you got here?
Well, I never liked cared too much for Tallahassee, even though it's a great quiet town. I grew up in New York,
Oh,
so it's a major contrast
it is.
when you take in New York City and then you go
No
to Tallahassee. No
comparison.
comparison. So, yes, but today it's you. So,
Thank you. Well, ironically, I believe that Florida is a borough for New York. I really feel like New Yorkers and Floridians have a lot in common, the same kind of vibe and agency. I love New York.
and so you came in Tallahassee. I mean, in Atlanta in 2003. You said, right?
Yes.
So, how did you settle down? Because it was not Miami then.
Here's the good news. I traveled 80% of the time. So one of my college mates moved to Atlanta, and I was literally just keeping my clothes in her basement because we just traveled so much. So
Were you married then?
I
Or
was
no?
not. I was
Okay,
not.
so you were like a single girl.
I was footloose and fancy free. So
Yeah.
if they called me and said, we need you in Timbuktu, I was so there, had a passport and a corporate credit card. So if the client needed me, I would show up.
Yeah, that's good. For as if you're gonna do something like this, you need to do it while you're single and young
Yes. And fearless.
and fearless. Yes.
Yes.
So and when did you get married?
So I don't think I have to go too far from the IBM story to talk about my incredible husband, who was at the time a friend. So he also traveled about 80% of the time for IBM, but he had a different expertise. And we kept finding ourselves in the same city for some reason. I'm not sure if he planned it, but I do believe God planned it.
God planned it, not him.
It had to be. It just was so well orchestrated. So I was in Miami. He was in Memphis. We met in Las Vegas at an IBM storage conference, and then we moved to Atlanta. So that had to be God. There were just way too much twists and turns. But I also found that some of my clients had needs that paralleled with both of our expertise. So I remember even being on several contracts where we were working a problem and there was just this gap in our learning. And they said, well, we need this person. And then he'd show up. So, like, yeah, God made sure that we ran into each other. We worked some jobs together. We even had one in Puerto Rico together. So we just were always in the same place at the same time.
God was like they said in Color Purple. God was trying to tell you something.
Listen. And his voice was resonating with both of us. So, you know, in Vegas, you know, neither one of us drank, smoked, or gambled. So we ended up finding ourselves together and following the crowd into casinos and having side conversations. And he was a relatively shy or introverted individual.
You don't look introverted to me.
Not at all. I never really was. And the good news is that he had the good news. He would always ask me about my faith and ask me about my walk with Christ. And that, to this day, is the strongest conversation that he participates in. He will talk about God and faith and biblical events. And then he'll shut down because that is his ministry. And so he led me to Christ.
Well, that's great. It's great. It's great. Even though he was the guy that they would call when they needed that thing. So that was his specialty.
Ooh.
But however, he was a godly man.
Oh, my gosh. I sometimes feel like that's the only reason I went to work for IBM. To meet him and to hear how people spoke about him. Even then, people would say his name with such admiration. I felt like, who is this guy? You know, is he even real? And I didn't even realize that our friendship had blossomed until he proposed.
And you've mentioned you spoke 5 different languages. You know, I pay attention and take notes, mental notes. What are those 4 languages that you speak?
Spanish, English, French, patois, and sign language. My boys, in addition to those language, read, write, and speak Mandarin Chinese. So we have been making sure that their instrument was trained at a very early age and that they could communicate at a very early age. So we learned ASL together.
Great, 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 great. Not too many of us can multilingual. So it's a good skill to have, great skill to have because nowadays, it's important to have more than one
100%.
languages if you can help
It embarrassed me,
yes.
though. I was not very proud of it as a kid. But I'm so grateful that my first language was French and then Spanish and English happens because you live in the U.S. But I do appreciate it now.
Yeah, I mean, I always was bilingual. So because when I came to America, I didn't have a choice. I had to learn English. So so I had my native language. Then I had to learn English. But I don't know. I never picked up Spanish the way I should. So so I took one semester. I'm like, that's enough. That's enough. I have enough. I have enough to graduate.
There you go.
But I wish I had pursued it further because sometimes we do get clients and they have they're not proficient in English, and that's when I wish I had pursued it a little bit further and acquired a third language. So
Not too late.
I know, and that's why I have Duolingo on my phones, but I get distracted sometimes.
I get it.
So now you're here in Atlanta. You've met your husband, and then you get married, right? And life is going. Both of you have great jobs, and you start having children, right?
Yes.
And then when did you start having symptoms for you to seek medical attention?
That's a great question, only because I think they'd always been there.
Mm-hmm.
I did notice after having my first son, Isaiah, that I was not really strong on my feet. As a matter of fact, we had to move his crib from upstairs to downstairs. Living in Georgia, of course, everything is vertical.
Yes.
So we had the top floor, the main floor, the basement, and I spent my days on the main floor with him because I didn't feel safe going up and down the stairs with him. Also, even before children, I was a tailgater, if you will. I drove really close to the car in front of me. I thought I was just nearsighted. But as I look back, I can see where symptomatically these things were happening. And after my second child was born, I literally went back to school to get a degree in education. So as an engineer, I went ahead and got another degree in education because I just wanted to be a better mom. To be honest, I just wanted to go in and get my Montessori certification. I was still full-time at IBM. And so once I got my certification, they were like, just hang out a little longer and go ahead and get another degree in early childhood education. And I felt like I needed to do that to be a better mom. I didn't feel like I had an experience that I can transfer onto my kids, and I felt like I needed to start from scratch.
Boy, you are the type. It's like I have children, I have to get a degree, but no one comes with a blueprint.
Well, not only that, with an engineering mind, it's like, okay, if I want to do this, I need to read a book or learn it or go back to school. And so I don't feel so much like that now. But at the time, I was writing patents and white papers and red books. And so I felt academia could make anything happen. Again, also as an engineer, you program it and it works. That didn't happen with my kids, of course. I thought maybe we can just write some code, but they're their own humans. But to answer your question, it was at the point in which I had been recommended for a Harvard internship, and we were getting ready to move. So my husband was 99% on board with literally saying yes, and I'd taken a lot of tests, and I was supposed to move and get my terminal degree in this program. It was an EDL program. At the time, it was one of the first education leadership programs that took the School of Education, the School of Law, and the School of Business to create these top level educators who were changing policy.
Okay.
And that was so my zhuzh. I was like, I can do this. And just before we left is when I started to have the pain on my right side of my body.
Okay.
And I was taught to listen to my body. While reluctant, the emergency room doctor called in a neurosurgeon who, after hours of draining my IBM insurance, asked me not to freak out. So
you started having pain in your right side. Is it your right side of your back? Is it in your back? So where specifically?
everywhere, mostly
Everywhere.
my shoulder and my arm, but it went down the entire right side of my body. I think I felt the upper shoulder arm down to the fingers more so. And then this, with all the balance and everything, is the reason why I listened to my body. And I went to emergency and they couldn't find anything outward. And so they just started to do a lot of imaging.
Okay, so they did a lot of imaging, and then through the imaging, what did they find? If you don't mind sharing.
I don't. I just stopped at the don't freak out because I'm hoping I'm not alone when I hear don't freak out to actually freak out. That makes me freak out more. So the imaging found a condition called Arnold-Chiari malformation, which basically says that my brain tonsils were too long at birth, and they literally fell into my spinal column, covering the space that the fluid in my brain needs to pass through.
So is
the
it
remaining
similar
organs.
to Budd-Chiari disease?
What is it?
Budd-Chiari disease?
I don't know that they're related, but it is part of the Chiari family. There's like Andler's syndrome and a whole bunch of spina bifida. It's in that category. So it's basically a birth defect. And I believe my mother had it as well. So I understand from the brain surgeon that we visited that it's usually passed on to a mother to her girl child. By this time, my mom had already passed away. So we were dealing with a lot of forgiveness, and she didn't talk much about her condition. But
did she even know that she had it? Because you have to understand, if you were born, let's say she was born in Haiti, right? So trust me, there's no congenital defects that's gonna be identified. I'm one of who experienced that. It wasn't until like in my late 40s and all. Then I was diagnosed with Wolff-Parkinson-White syndrome, which is something that you were born with.
That's
right?
It's
So it wasn't picked up at birth in Haiti. So because there's not a lot of specialists and all this, sometimes I'm sure those things get amiss there until you start having symptoms. And if the person doesn't have great insurance for them to deplete all this, the person may even passed away not even understanding what they have.
You must be either in my house or my head, because that's exactly what happened. Imaging is not cheap, nor was it, used as much as it is today. When she passed away, they said it was a brain aneurysm. And I will tell you that Arnold-Chiari malformation was identified by Dr. Chiari, of course, in the early 1900s. And when women were diagnosed with it, we would hold the back of our heads because of the pressure that it causes in our brain. And they called it the crazy woman's disease because they could not prove that there was anything wrong, and it affected women more. And so they just, chalked it off to, well, women are crazy. So
there's
that's
a lot
what
of
it
things
is.
that was struck up as women are crazy.
That's
Trust
right.
Me,
I believe you.
hysteria and all this.
Yes.
For menopause symptoms. So
That's right.
we can have a list.
That's right. And, we become, public enemy number one because we're making things up, and especially with women. And so I only found out about it when I had three things she didn't, right? She didn't have a husband, she didn't know Jesus, and she didn't have a diagnosis. So I can't even imagine the suffering that she went through. She couldn't tap out, when she wasn't feeling her best, much like I did. I can tell my husband, get the kids, I need a dark room, I need to curl into fetal position. And she didn't have those things. So there wasn't a sense of, I wasn't upset with her. I actually had this compassion for her. And then I became so much more grateful because you never know what someone is going through, right? So she went from being a villain to a victor because I'm like, we lived on a peninsula. This pain is so intense that she could have driven off of any street and ended all of our lives so that she can have peace. And I realize now that her life saved mine, even though she was in so much pain. So it helped me to learn more about her as I got older.
And she probably didn't have the resources
No.
and stuff and all because there's so many loopholes. You'll be surprised how much I have to do just to get patients to get imaging.
Wow.
And you give diagnosis. No, that's not enough. You give diagnosis. So when it's like the complexity of healthcare. It's something else. So I empathize for people, particularly people of color, if they don't have the right insurance and all. They do get a certain type of. I mean, it's documented. It's research. The agency writes. American Journal Association writes about it. The disparity that exists with services of people of color.
Yes.
So she could have been one of those people because she never truly got a diagnosis, just
Right.
a brain aneurysm.
Right.
So
And even if she did, what could she do about it?
yeah.
I don't know that surgery was even an option at the time, but I was just blessed to know that I had the things that I needed to move forward. But then I had to have brain surgery. So after the doctor told me not to freak out, he's like, well, now you need brain surgery. It's not like a tumor. It's not something we could take out. It's something that you may be familiar with that looks more like road construction. We just need to move some things around. Take the back of your C1 and C2 spinal vertebrae off and to make sure that that fluid can pass through as it should. And that's what we did. The only problem with that, of course, is I was accidentally injured during the surgery.
Wow.
So my spinal cord was compromised, and so I literally walked in and I never walked back out. So I was unable to walk, talk, or work. My IQ had dropped in the double digits, so I couldn't take the scholarship I was given. I couldn't stay at my job under the new position that I was given. And of course, I didn't have a voice, literally.
Wow. So we're going to take a pause and then come back.
Are you experiencing sneezing, itchy eyes, constant allergies? At Clinic, we test most common allergies. We provide personalized treatment plans for adults. Don't let allergies hold you back. We've got you covered. Come visit us at 1750 Powder Springs Road, Southwest, Suite number 510, Marietta, Georgia 30064, next door to Publix Supermarket. Or call us at 770-875-8889. Are you experiencing sneezing, itchy eyes, constant allergies?
Welcome to the Bella Chacha podcast, where we dive deep into the heart of human experience. I am your host, Manushka Lamini. On Sunday afternoon, we share intimate, life-changing stories that inspire, connect, and transform. So grab your favorite drink, get cozy, and join us on this adventure of vulnerability and strength.
At Clinic, we test most common allergies. We provide personalized treatment plans for adults. Don't let allergies hold you back. We've got you covered. Come visit us at 1750 Powder Springs Road, Southwest, Suite number 510, Marietta, Georgia 30064, next door to Publix Supermarket. Or call us at 770-875-8889. Are you experiencing sneezing, itchy eyes, constant allergies? At Clinic, we test most common allergies. We provide personalized treatment plans for adults. Don't let allergies hold you back. We've got you covered. Come visit us at 1750 Powder Springs Road, Southwest, Suite number 510, Marietta, Georgia 30064, next door to Publix Supermarket. Or call us at 770-875-8889. Are you experiencing...
That hasn't changed. Okay. Hello, we are back. We are back with Miss Yvette with this very stories of resilience and how she's been a great student, A student, over excel, multilingual, and 5 languages, and was on top of the world. And then with all these symptoms, you're finding out this, and then you had to have surgery, and you wake up, and your world changed, right?
Yes.
And what did it change to?
Darkness. My voice had been lost. My children were equally as, I don't know, my children were younger, but I believe that I was another baby bird in the nest that my husband had to take care of. So we went literally from making 6+ figures to owing 6+ figures. Fortunately, my husband is a great steward, so we had paid everything off, including the house. So losing that income didn't hurt us as much as it could or should have. But I was still in the nest with my sons, waiting to be fed, to be bathed, to be cared for, just like my young children. So it really did take so much away from me, because I felt like I could not parent my children in the way that I had intended to, and all the work that I did previously to be a, quote, good mom, reading all the books, understanding the psychology of a child, teaching them ASL, and to do all those things and find myself in the nest with them, needing all those things that I provided for them at the time. It was disheartening. I felt like I was a burden on my family and on my husband, for him to have to bathe me and clothe me and take me places was the same thing he was doing for our kids.
And that's what I was going to ask you. I was going to ask you what was the psyche before the even responsibility for the children? Just you as a person. How did you feel, in a sense of, here I was, top of the world, planning to something new, and now this, and not looking at responsibility, but we have a responsibility to ourselves.
Right.
So how was the psyche at that time?
Oh, you asked such good questions. I don't know. I kind of feel like we were so busy trying to get better, we didn't have time to be bitter. I will tell you that there was a turning point when my oldest son, Isaiah, came home with a note from his teacher asking what she should say when Isaiah asks, is his mommy going to die? I can tell you in that moment, my psyche was, and my words, was, hey, God, you can break me, but don't break my babies. And so in that moment, Mama Bear came out, and I had to work with my physician to get me off of these psychotropic drugs, pain pills even. And I would rather be in pain and present than to be in a cloud and somewhere in the ethos. I needed to be functional and present for my family, for myself, to give myself purpose. And so I literally tied myself upright in a chair. And from that moment on, neither my husband or my kids have seen me horizontal over long periods of time. I think also because it was a traumatic brain and spinal cord injury, the expectation is that it's trauma. And yes, it is medical trauma, but I didn't realize I was on so many psychotropic drugs and medication for depression, and no one asked me if I needed them. They just automatically gave it to me because of the condition, and maybe they were right in doing so, they being the physicians. But, even today, I trust and respect the medical field, as it relates to a diagnosis. But I truly believe the great physician, Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior, gives the prognosis. So I didn't listen to some of the things they told me around losing executive function and never being able to control my tremors that had become so very violent, and never being able to talk again, and those things. So I think my psyche was about winning. This same young lady who came out of college and climbed the corporate ladder was now me trying to climb out of this abyss called sickness and disability. And I got up, and my kids were going to every doctor's appointment with me. And during rehab, I had to ask my boys. I was like, well, Mommy's going to rehab. What would you like Mommy to do? And they said, Mommy, we just want you to make macaroni and cheese. So for the next 3 weeks in rehab, I had to learn how to make macaroni and cheese again. So those small steps to get to some sense of normalcy. And I definitely had to stop competing with who I was and allowed myself to become who I was meant to become and who I believe I am today.
So you had to give yourself grace.
Oh my gosh. Permission for grace.
For grace. Yes.
It was that far back. Yeah.
Yes, because your personality, you were a competitor at best. So people who are like type A, needing to do this, achievement, when something like this happen, they have to really adjust and giving themselves permission to have grace.
100%. But believe it or not, I feel like I'm a different person. So my IQ dropped, but my EQ, right, my intellectual quotient almost disappeared for some time. But my emotional quotient just went through the roof. And I'll be perfectly honest, I didn't like people very much. I wasn't very social. God bless my husband. I was just not super emotional. I was very linear in the way that I thought and the way that I behaved. All facts. No
well,
fun.
that's engineering mind.
Oh my gosh.
Engineering is like numbers, angle.
Right. 100%. And so I now feel like between my education experience at school and the brain injury, I was really feeding my right brain. I used a lot of the Montessori training that I created to restore my own strength and my compassion and my trust. And it was ironic that those same materials that I created to help early childhood educators and children between the ages 0 and 8 to help myself recover and speak again and find a purpose.
So what are you doing now?
Oh my gosh, where do I start?
Let's start with your profession.
Okay.
Are you still working for IBM? And
Okay. No. I am not working for IBM, and I don't know that I had a pivot until I got a call from a national pageant organization that said, hey, we see that you're working with children on spectrum in your neighborhood. We'd love for you to join this wheelchair pageant. I was like, dude, I don't do pageants. I don't do pink. I don't do bling. Again, I'm this tomboy, as we used to call it. And they said, well, Yvette, wouldn't you want to help kids beyond your neighborhood, maybe in the whole state of Georgia if you win, or nationally? You know, your talent is your community service. We'd love for you to join us. So it took a few more tugs where it came to children. And I believe that winning the state of Georgia, being the first woman of color to win the national title, and then going on to be Miss Wheelchair International would make my mother proud, because for the first time I wore pink, I wore bling.
yeah, you did say she's a girly.
Oh my goodness. So I think I'm like bringing her back into the fold. I still remember her glamour, and people in my family tell me I look like her. And now that I'm, you know, a girly girl, I act like her. But to think that I didn't even start looking at myself that way, and that it was okay to be pretty and smart until after my injury. And I think as a result of that, and running in my reign for 3 different terms helped me to find my new profession. And I realized it was telling my story. Biblically, you know, Christ gave parables in the Bible. He told stories all the time. And so the fact that my story can motivate and activate individuals either at the corporate level, at church, or in schools, I realized, oh my goodness, this feels like where I'm supposed to be. And I was fortunate enough in my current state to still use my engineering expertise to help organizations that create materials, processes, and products for people with disabilities. And so I am still helping to engineer technology and innovate. In fact, I'm even writing a book about it that should be out shortly. And so I'm really excited that I didn't have to throw any of it away and that I can use all of it. And I know God doesn't waste a thing. So much like yourself, I do some consulting and coaching, but most of what I do is really advocating. I do a lot with policy to help support individuals with disabilities. This is a community that I now live in, I love, and I learn from. And that's part of who I am. Anytime I roll into a room in my wheelchair, I see things differently. And those eyes, that vision, that lens helps me to do health checks and make sure common areas are accessible, to work with leadership to make sure that employees feel psychologically safe, and just those things.
You want some water? Let me ask.
Ooh. But that dry, unproductive cough is still there.
You were doing great until I thought you were probably speaking too much. And you know, some people, it's like when I have allergies, so sometimes after going from room to room seeing patient, and then I start coughing, so I know it's my allergies flaring up. So
Maybe that's it. But I mean, this happens every night and morning. But I don't remember where I left off. I can back up a little bit.
so policies, advocacy,
Oh, yeah.
yes.
So I believe that. So as far as what I'm doing now professionally.
Pull it a little bit.
Oh,
So
yeah. I
yes,
moved it out. Sorry.
there we go. Yes.
All right, so let me back up a little bit. So when it comes to my profession, I live in my purpose, and it feels more like, I don't know if I want to use the word fun, but it feels like this is the cost of admission to live in this country, to minister and do God's will. My wheelchair is not an excuse not to fulfill the Great Commission, to love on people and care about people. I did end up going back to school and finishing my terminal degree, being the first in my generation to complete a terminal degree, which was very hard to do. So graduating from seminary allowed me to continue and become a chaplain and work in a field of disabilities. So,
Oh, I need to hook you up with someone who has the chaplaincy circle.
ooh,
Yes,
I
Chris
would
Lee.
love that.
Yes.
I would love that because after graduating from seminary and being given some of the options that most of the graduates were looking at, none of it seemed to fit. So getting my chaplaincy fit, you know, just being a light wherever I am, not necessarily standing on a stage or even teaching at a school. And because of my disability community and my love for sports, I actually looked at being a chaplain for disability sports teams. So everything from an amputee soccer program that I chaplained for to the Paralympics. The NFL and the NBA have chaplains, so why can't these disability teams have the same? So it's more about spiritual and spatial support. And as someone who's in a wheelchair, working with other people in wheelchairs, I know there'll always be access and an opportunity to advocate and make sure wherever they travel around the world that they have access to everything that they need, including the Word of God, including just peace and mental health and mental wellness.
Great. See, I knew there was something anyone who were to watch this episode they can glean from. So what they can understand that life, like the young says, can lifing.
Yes.
Yes. But however, as life continue, we encounter challenges and obstacles, then we don't have to stay in that space.
100%.
So sometimes God allow these things so we can repurpose our life. And sometimes God redirect us, just like you said. My husband, when we first met, what kept us where we connect, it was from the spiritual part, the word that connected you guys. Both of you then smoke, both of you then do this, and then when you get to I'm sure in that part when you felt like you were in the abyss, it was that kept all of you.
Listen, he pulled me out of the abyss with soot on my heels. That darkness was creeping into my life in a way that I don't know where I'd be today had he not been brave and courageous enough to come for me. And I am just so grateful. And I really do feel like, much like you said, I think we find peace and purpose in the areas that we already excel in, no matter how small it seems. I'm thinking, okay, so I talk a lot. What can I do? Right? Like, how do I turn that into a job, right? How do I turn being disabled into a solution? You know, how do I turn my love for the Word of God into a safe space for others? How do I turn my love for adapted sports? I really didn't even learn how to swim until after I became disabled. How do I turn 21 different adaptive sports into a, quote, job? All of it was for a reason. And I really do feel like, as painful as my childhood was, and as much as I could question God as to why he allowed me to live in a home that had no love, I feel like that prepared me for being loved, being the thing that I didn't have when I needed it the most for others. We say our gifts do not belong to us, but to think that that experience makes this experience easy. I am not minimizing having a traumatic brain and spinal cord injury, full-time wheelchair user, chronic pain that continues, deteriorating spine. I would not wish that on anyone, of course, especially myself, but I will say that this pain reminds me of my purpose every day. Getting out of bed, figuring out what I'm going to wear, like all of it is something that I have to include God in every single day. And it reminds me that there are millions who don't have the option to even get out of bed. And so those are the people that I fight for. Not being able to speak for a long period of time is something I promised God I would not do if he gave me my voice back. I said, I will praise you outwardly, because I was doing it inwardly through prayer at the time. Just give me back my voice so I could be a voice for others. And he did so much more than that. So I feel like adapting is something that we have to be good at. We have to make that an option. We have to be transparent. That was one of the hardest things for me too, being able to talk about my disability and my pain, to be in the community that I'm serving. There's trust issues there because there's so much pain there, and this community gets taken advantage of very often, and we have to prove ourselves in ways that just is not fair. Because yes, I have very physical, very visible disabilities, but I also have invisible disabilities, which is why we started the organization that I founded.
Okay, and what's the name of the organization?
It's Your Invisible Disability Group.
Oh, I actually have two parts to this. For the month of July, we have one. Yours is like breaking through physical difficulties, challenges, and stigma, right?
Yes.
And then the next episode is going to be talking about invisible challenges, like the ADD, ADHD, and those alike, because sometimes people see that, oh, this person is fine, so but they don't understand the struggle that they go to because of the attention deficit and all that.
It's a really good point. There's 61 million Americans with disabilities. 85% of those disabilities are invisible.
Yes.
It's also an $8 trillion industry because putting the word disability or accessibility on top of anything raises the price by 400%. And then it's also disposable income up to $3 trillion. So those who are not marketing and including people with disabilities are not just losing out on incredible talent pool, but they're also missing out on an income that some of us have available to us, because if you live long enough, there's illness, accident, injury, and aging. So at some point you will have a disability if you live long enough, or you'll have someone really close to you, especially understanding that 1 in 4 individuals have a disability. And that is a pre-COVID number. It may be greater now post-COVID, but this is the only community that you can be added to as a minority group, because I didn't consider myself disabled, even though this was a cognitive condition. I didn't have a diagnosis. And it wasn't until that diagnosis that I fully committed to this community. And some are temporary, some are situational, like COVID. But at some point, if we don't recognize that there is a whole community of individuals who are being treated differently because we're disabled, and it goes back to what you were saying too, that we don't like going to doctors or hospitals because the first thing they're going to say is, oh, Yvette, your fingernail hurts because you are a paraplegic, or because you have cognitive disabilities, or, you know, intellectual and developmental disabilities. It's like, that's not why I'm here. Look at my nail, you know, and then, of course, not having access to some of those spaces as well. So it's a difficult place to be. I would never ask God to put me in this space, but while I'm here, I'm going to make impact. Even when I returned to school, I think even more important than my diploma was creating an Office of Disability Services at a school that advised me that I was the first person in a wheelchair to cross the stage to be hooded in 72 years.
Wow.
So to think that my being there alone was able to open some eyes and change some policies, rip out some doors and add ramps is more exciting to me than anything I've ever done.
And if you can elaborate a little bit and leave information about your organization.
Absolutely. So Your Invisible Disability was created to empower, educate, and include individuals with disabilities in every part of life. And I was merely being a ladder or a bridge, because I am now in this system where there are supports, but they're hard to find. So we, as part of the Your Invisible Disability group, help you to figure out what next. So you become disabled. It's for newly diagnosed and disabled persons. Find out what they need, do somewhat of an intake, and then use resources we're familiar with and those that we find to make sure you get the hope and help that you need. When I was initially put into this community, I think 20% of the time I got a yes, and 80% of the time I got a no, we can't help you. Well, our goal is to flip that experience. So through Your Invisible Disability Group, there is a place where you can get food, help, shelter, those invisible disabilities, neurodivergence, and all those areas that are not clearly represented, especially, you know, the 2025 experiences that we're having and more is being taken away from this community.
True.
We try to make a way for you to get back into this community and to get better, to get out of your head and get out of bed and live your life.
And is there a specific age group, or there's no limit?
There is no limit.
Okay.
Because as a volunteer at the Children's Hospital, I am seeing children who are anywhere from 12, 13 to maybe 17 who are suffering from gunshot wounds that leave them paralyzed. So there really is no age. And when you think about it, it's not just the person who has experienced a disability, it's the entire family. Like my boys got bullied when they were younger because their mommy had wheels and everybody else's mommy had feet. But they at the time didn't feel like anything was wrong because we were loving on them like we had 2 feet, right? And they were able to use that experience to write and publish their own book. And so now, you know, or shortly thereafter, when the kids or the parents ask, what's wrong with your mom? They got to say, hey, it's in the book. Buy it. It's my college fund. And to think that all these years later.
Smart.
They were.
Turn
were.
challenge into
Yes.
money.
A triumph.
Triumph.
Well, the name of the book is My Mommy Had Brain Surgery and I'm Okay. So when they gave it that name, I really felt like, okay, God, they're okay. And on top of that, they were traveling and doing ministry in hospitals and reading books at libraries. And so they got a lot of public speaking experiences on top of that. So yes, we became authors, we became advocates, we became part of a community that needs a voice. And I know what it feels like not to have one.
And I'm sure it probably cultivate a level of empathy with your children as well, compared to those who are bullies. Probably they were abused themselves, but then get a chance to turn things around. But in their case, because they're having the experience, and whether you felt that you needed all this training just to be a great parent, you were a great parent. I didn't get a chance to go back into a couple of points you made, but we're running out of time because you mentioned. Because I listened very well. It says, I wanted to make sure I love my kids, not the way that it was for me when I was younger.
Yeah.
Because I felt that when you were younger, you didn't feel that you were loved enough.
It was an abusive household.
Okay.
So some of it was inward, a lot of it was outward.
Okay. So do you think it was part of culture?
It probably had a little bit to do with culture, but I think it also had a lot to do with condition. So in my mother's condition, she got really angry all the time and took it out on me especially. And so when I look back and I realized that she was probably reacting from pain, I, again, don't believe I needed to forgive her because I always loved, cared for her, and took care of her. But yes, it was a very physically, mentally, emotionally, and sexually abusive household.
Okay.
And I thought that was normal.
Okay. So that's something we would have to tabletop because if it's her, so part because I've had a young lady who came and talked about child abuse in the sense that before she turned 9, she was violently abused as a child before age 9.
Wow.
So I'm not sure in your case because, like I said, we won't have much time to unpack that particular one. And if you were not with your dad and all, so I'm not sure where the abuse was. Was it before divorce or after divorce? And if she was a single mother, was it family members who you were exposed to? Because there's those things, particularly in our own culture. Like I said, read the book when my book comes, because we talk about that. I talk about that, like when you have like people who married to people, and then the person they married to, they're pedophiles, you know.
Oh my God.
Yes. So I'm not sure exactly the sexual abuse where it came from. So we won't have time to unpack this. And we are about to close. And as we close this podcast, so I do the same thing with every closure. And what I do is just like I bring a token, a small token.
Aww.
So it's a nice little bag with a thank you card.
Aww.
And then this, you get a cup. It's in Creole.
Tout monde, c'est monde.
Yes. So we do understand every human, everybody is a human being, right?
Yeah.
And so there's no measuring to like whether you have money. That's what makes a human being. Every human is valuable, right? You
love
aspire
that.
to be loved. You aspire to belong, right? So that's those 4 words. It says a lot.
It does.
So, and then on the other side of it, then that's when you yourself, you try to determine who you are. So that's why it's left blank. It says I am, then the bottom is blank. So the person define who they are. For those who already know who they are, most people come and sit here, trust me, they've already done the journey of finding themselves.
Yeah.
But for those who haven't, so by giving everybody this, I'm hoping they start doing the search. And if they don't, they can always hire a coach.
Well, Coach, can I share the first thing that came to
Sure.
my mind when I saw this? So, I am is such a powerful statement because of the I am. But I would put on this line becoming. I don't want to limit who I think I am today. And I think your coaching would be so helpful to those of us who are becoming. And whatever that looks like and however that feels, I think is a good place to start, especially for me, because I don't want to limit that growth and the power of knowing who you are.
Yes. Very
So
true. Very
good.
true.
Thank you.
So this is yours to take home.
Thank you. You're amazing.
And thank you for accepting the invitation. Thank you very much.
It just went by too fast.
That's what I had one guest. He says, "Oh my God, an hour." I'm like, you'll be surprised how quickly it goes by. And then once we finish, and I'm like, we're coming to a close, and he says, "Already?" I'm like, "I
Exactly.
told you." And then he was
Exactly.
like, "I guess I still correct."
That's right. That's right.
I said that's the whole purpose when you engage and make it like a conversational. You're just sharing, just like you're speaking to a friend.
Yeah.
So before you know it, an hour goes by.
It does. It really does. And I feel that way because those who will be listening recognize that this is evergreen. This will always be out there. And I love to be able to support people that I'll never meet, just like we sit under trees we never planted. And so I'd love to share some coursework and opportunity with you, maybe in your show notes, to engage the people who will listen or wish they heard more. And definitely I'm open to additional time with you if
Sure.
the opportunity presents itself.
Sure. You never know. I mean, I probably will bring you back for the other piece.
Yeah.
Because I think it's one that is not well discussed in certain communities.
Yes.
Because of shame, because of, oh my God, do I have to talk about this? And for those who are willing and they're heroes and they want to share,
Yeah.
why not? And so hopefully if more people are sharing, that for those who hide in shame,
Yeah.
they'll be willing to share their own and be liberated.
100%. The only way to get past the PTSD is, the PTSM, the PTSH, the healing piece of it, because it can't stand alone without the legs of grace, without removing the shame and the guilt, without the support of people like you and your community and this podcast to help people heal through others so they can start the healing in themselves.
Yes. So, and that's the whole purpose. It's just like allowing people to hear and allowing others to share. So it's a two-way.
Thanks for all you do. I appreciate you.
I appreciate you too.
God bless.
God bless.
Welcome to the Bella Chacha podcast, where we dive deep into the heart of human experience. I am your host, Manushka Lamini. On Sunday afternoon, we share intimate, life-changing stories that inspire, connect, and transform. So grab your favorite drink, get cozy, and join us on this adventure of vulnerability and strength.